Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. MC Mura here, and if you're someone who played Street Fighter 5, then you are probably aware of the terms -2, +2, +3, -4, etc, etc. These are usually terms that we use to describe attacks or even sometimes describe character strengths, and 3 frame is a gigantic tick mark for whether a character is strong or not. And if you have been following the Twitterverse, the FGC Twitterverse, at least that's what I like to call it, because honestly sometimes the discussions that goes on Twitter, they blow my mind. I think they're from an alternate dimension. But anyways, if you've been following the Twitterverse, you know that there is a ton of talk around frame data and their importance in fighting games. Should they be in the game? Should they be available in the game, or should they be like a resource that you can find online? Were the game better back in the days because you couldn't rely on frame data to win? And that is the talk of the day. A lot of people are weighing in on this, and I figured why not talk about it as well. Frame data, in a nutshell, is an indication of when is it your turn, when is it your opponent's turn, what is safe, what is unsafe. That is pretty much it. It is just one aspect of the game, one numerical aspect of the game. I know it's a term, frame data, that is usually kind of intimidating for a lot of the casuals, and even for people who do know it, it can come across as some sort of very nerdy information. I'll say especially these days, but it is important. I think it's undeniable to say that at least in the majority of the modern fighting games, you need to know frame data, or at least have an idea about how it functions. And I think this is mostly, highlighted in a game like Street Fighter 5. I feel like Street Fighter 4 frame data were important, but Street Fighter 5 is where it became such a big point of importance, right? Because in Street Fighter 5, I don't think this is a game that you can play without knowing the basics of frame data and how it functions. When is it your turn, when is it the opponent's turn, understanding the -2 mix-ups and all of that. And yeah, that is a point of contention, right? Because some people think that is alright, some people absolutely hate it. I think it's something that have been said a lot about Street Fighter 5, and that is it's a very hard game to play by feel. Now let's first talk about frame data and whether they are important or not. I think obviously they should be in the game. Frame data is like a genie, and once you got the genie out of the box, it's out, right? I mean, you can't really go back to not having it, so it should be there. I think just having it online in some sort of a wiki is just a pain in the ass, to be honest, and a lot of people will have it much better for them if it is just in the game. It's a lot more convenient since people are gonna find it anyways. You can't really hide it. We're not in the 90s anymore. Even though I do think in the 90s actually a lot of the Japanese players used to know frame data, but that is another topic for another day. Anyways, yes, they obviously should be in the game. Now, why is it so important? Why is frame data suddenly so important, and why wasn't it so important in some of the previous games? And is it gonna be vital in Street Fighter 6? Well, let's talk about it. I think the reason that frame data is very important in Street Fighter 5 is that there is very little ways to actually disrespect frame data. And allow me to express what I mean. For example, in a game like Street Fighter 5, you're -2. If you try to press your 3 frame, your opponent will press their 3 frame, they will win. That's it, right? That is the interaction. There's not really that much else that can go around. But let's say in a game like Tekken that allows more room for feel, let's say for example your -2, jab in Tekken is 10 frames, usually high. Obviously the opponent does the jab, you can block, that is an interaction that is possible, but you can also try to backdash, and depending on the distance that can work. You might try to sidestep, and that can work. Maybe you will do a high crushing attack. See, the point is there is a lot of options to play around the frame data, right? Where in Street Fighter 5 there's actually very little ways of playing around frame data. Even V-Shift is actually very I will say frame data centric, because knowing when you can do V-shift and be safe, or when you can do it and get punished if the opponent bait it, that actually is a pretty big deal. So it's a result of the game focusing more on very close range combat, my turn, your turn kind of philosophy. And I don't think frame data by itself is bad, but Street Fighter V's design by nature, I will say especially when you consider that the game have a priority system where the game have light, medium and heavy attacks. Medium will always beat lights if they connect with each other on the same frame, and heavy will beat everything if they kinda both were active at the same frame. So the priority system actually also put a lot of emphasis on the frame data. And that's why you can't really play Street Fighter V without it at this point. You need to know. Another issue with Street Fighter V I feel that made frame data so important is that the block stun in this game can be very weird. There are a lot of attacks that feel weird when you block them. It's hard to tell if a move is positive or not just by blocking. For example, let's say that you blocked a standing heavy punch from R. Mika and you blocked a forward heavy punch from R. Mika, or like Lady Mika. The standing heavy punch actually is negative and is punchable, and the forward heavy punch or the Lady Mika is plus on block, but the block stun more or less feels the same. So it's actually, unless you know that this move is plus and that this move is negative, it's hard to act. Some moves can be totally deceptive. For example, Zeku's shoulder attack, the Hozanto. That move is kind of famous for having a very deceptive block stun that kind of makes it hard to punish even. So all of these aspects combined make it so that you need to know frame data in Street Fighter V to succeed. Now, is it too important? I think to an extent, it is more important than I would like. I'm a firm believer that knowledge is power, and the more you know, the more you should be rewarded by it. But I don't like it when it's a necessity, like you need to know, and if you don't know, you don't stand a chance. That aspect of it honestly sucks. Like, imagine you're just trying to play versus a character like Bison by feel. I mean, yeah, you're getting wrecked, right? Now, how about Street Fighter 6? Will Street Fighter 6 be very reliant on frames, frame data, etc., and it's hard for me to say at the moment, obviously, but in my opinion, it's actually a lot likely that it will. Obviously, the game so far seems to have an emphasis on the drive system, right? And we've seen that the drive parry seems to be one of the key, one of the key tactics of the drive system. And it seems like if you don't get the perfect parry, some attacks you can punish, some attacks you can't. The game does have a punish counter state when you hit a move in recovery, and this seems to give you like counter hit properties and extended combos. So it seems like you will need to know like your counter hit routes, when to punish this move. If you parry it, is it punishable on a parry, is it punishable on a block? I do think it will actually be important. Will it be as important as Street Fighter V? This will come down to how homogeneous the design of the game is, because Street Fighter V, a lot of the characters have very similar-ish moves. Like a lot of the heavy kick crush counters are -4, and that is very deliberate design. Will Street Fighter 6 go for a more unique design? I guess we'll have to wait and see, and like I said, this will totally come down to your preference. And that is pretty much it. Yes, they are important, yes, they are vital these days, and they're not going away anytime soon. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment, it helps the channel so much. Please take a look at the dojo. You will find the link to the dojo below in the pinned comment if you're interested in joining the Mura Nation. I will leave a link to the Patreon, Discord, Twitter and Twitch pages in the description below. Thank you very much for watching and stay safe.